What's up, guys? I thought I would do a little video tonight talking about some of the most controversial football players and some of the most controversial footballing moments to have occurred over the last 25 or so years. So when I think of a player that was incredibly controversial, the one name that I would say always comes to mind is Joey Barton. I remember the final day of the 2011-2012 Premier League season, Man City playing QPR, final day of the season. Man City obviously going for the league title. QPR were amongst the teams that were fighting to stay up. And obviously fighting for survival in their first season back in the Premier League for a few years. And they obviously did stay up that season. It was Wolves, Blackburn, and Bolton that went down. Obviously, Wolves have since been promoted back to the Premier League, but Blackburn and Bolton still yet to return. But anyway, going back to that final game of the season, Man City playing QPR. Obviously will be remembered for a huge moment in which Joey Barton, um, he basically he slapped Carlos Tevez, and instead of just walking up, leaving it there, walking off the pitch, he then hit Sergio Aguero and then was almost involved in a fight with Mario Balotelli as he was walking off the pitch. Now, if you look at that incident, he wasn't provoked. He just slapped him in the face. He slapped Carlos Tevez, hit Sergio Aguero, and obviously was almost involved in an altercation with Mario Balotelli as he was coming off the pitch. So, yeah, obviously he had a few other controversial incidents, but that's the one that I remember quite well. Obviously, him being sent off, and then obviously being, losing his temper, and then hitting his third Aguero before almost being involved in another altercation with Mario Balotelli as he was coming off the pitch. Obviously, when I think about obviously another controversial moment that season, Carlos Tevez in the Champions League for Man City refusing to come off the bench. Now, that's not something you see often in football, is players refusing to come off the bench and refusing to be subbed on. But this is what happened with Carlos Tevez. I don't remember who Man City were playing in the Champions League, but it was a Champions League game. Tevez was Roberto Mancini had asked Carlos Tevez to get ready to come off the bench, and Tevez had refused to warm up, refused to come on. And if I remember correctly, Carlos Tevez was actually suspended for around about 3 or 4 months and didn't actually return until later on in the season. Obviously, he would actually stay with Man City and obviously spend another season with them before leaving in 2013 at the end of the 2012-13 season alongside Mario Balotelli, who also ended up leaving the following season. Now, we know that Balotelli was involved in an altercation, in a training ground altercation with Roberto Mancini. Obviously, a player that's had it tough because obviously he's been in a lot of teams, he's had to deal with a lot of racial abuse. It was definitely one of the worst signings that Liverpool ever made, Mario Balotelli. I looked at some of the what the fuck signings Liverpool made. Balotelli is at the top of that list alongside Andy Carroll. I look at Balotelli and I think, why did Brendan Rodgers sign him? Obviously, they were looking for the replacement for Luis Suarez, but Balotelli wasn't it. Obviously, the one player that Luis Suarez is one player that I've never liked. I don't think he's a crap player. I've never said Luis Suarez is a bad player. I just don't like him because he racially abused Patrice Evra. And he was also known to have been involved in 3 incidents in which he actually bit a player. He bit one player while he was playing for Ajax. Then when he was playing for Liverpool, he bit Branislav Ivanovic, who was playing for Chelsea at the time. Then when he was the following year of the 2014 World Cup, he was involved in a third incident in which he bit Italy defender Giorgio Chiellini. Obviously, and it was quite crazy, to think that he was involved in not one, not two, but 3 separate biting incidents. It's huge in a way. But as I said, I've never liked him purely because he racially abused one of United's players, Patrice Evra, and then obviously refused to shake hands with Evra in the return game at Old Trafford in 2012. I remember that moment very, very well. Now, there's one player one moment I've always looked back on and always looked at. It's the 2006 World Cup final. Zinedine Zidane was sent off for obviously headbutting Marco Materazzi. Now, when I look at that incident, I don't blame Zidane for what he did. You know, for the fact that he headbutted Materazzi. I think Materazzi fully deserved that because he kind of provoked Zidane a little bit. You know, so that he was pulling Zidane's shirt, and Zidane said, "Would you like you want my shirt or something?" And Materazzi had said to him, "No, I'd rather have your sister." Now, if someone had made a comment like that towards me, I probably would have backed them as well. Um, I mean, I think this is the thing. Like, whenever I've looked at this incident, I've always said I don't blame Zinedine Zidane for what he did in that game because, purely because of the fact that he was provoked. It's like you can't expect a player to, you can't expect to provoke a player and for that player to not react. If you provoke a player, that player is always going to react, and they have every right to do that. Zidane was provoked by Materazzi, so I feel, in my honest opinion, he had every right to react the way that he did. You know, by headbutting Materazzi, I don't think he did anything wrong. I personally think that he had every right to do what he did, and he had every right to react the way that he did. I don't think it was wrong. Because he was provoked. There have been one of those incidents where Zidane wasn't necessarily provoked. I think my opinion on it would be very, very different to what it is now. I think I would have a very, very different viewpoint on it. But knowing that he was provoked, that is why I'm saying I don't think he was wrong to do what he did. I think if he hadn't been provoked if this was an incident where he had been provoked, I would be looking at it very differently, and I would be saying, well, he wasn't right to do what he did, and I would say I don't agree with what he did. But you know, there's a lot of big moments, like a lot of controversial moments in football, and then that is one of them. I mean, some people will say that Zidane was wrong to react the way that he did. Others would say that he was right to react the way that he did. And I'm probably one of those people that think he was right to do what he did. It's a bit like the whole Eric Hansen Humphrey incident when Humphrey hit the Palace fan. Again, I don't think you can really blame Hansen for that because I think he was provoked by the Palace fan. So, when a Palace fan is, obviously the fact that the fan was provoking him, you can't really blame Hansen entirely for the way that he reacts. This is the thing, like, some players, when they do get provoked, they're always going to react badly. And that's what happens in football. There was one of the most, I wouldn't say it was a controversial moment, but it was quite a hilarious moment. Was the 2019 Carabao Cup final, Man City versus Chelsea. Kepa obviously refusing to come off the field. Maurizio Sarri, wanted to come off the field, but Kepa was saying, "No, I want to stay on. I'm staying on." And like Sarri was staying, Maurizio Sarri was obviously managing Chelsea at the time. Was getting so angry, getting angrier and angrier and angrier because he wanted Kepa to come off, but Kepa was refusing to come off the pitch. I mean, that's more bizarre than it is controversial. I mean, when I think of it, there's not too many controversial moments that I remember. I mean, obviously, apart from the England World Cup goal in 2010, that should have stood. I remember when Mike Randolph was alive, he always used to say that the reason that there was always so many controversial decisions given against England at major tournaments was because Sepp Blatter hated England. Now, I don't know if that was the case. I don't know if Sepp Blatter actually genuinely hated England, but that was what Mike Grandad always said, was that the reason that there was always so many controversial decisions given towards England at major tournaments, or given against England at major tournaments, is because Sepp Blatter hated England. I mean, I always used to laugh when he said that, as I thought it was a bit bizarre, but I think at times I actually started to believe, well, there was times I actually started to believe that that might actually be true. I mean, I've never, I mean, I don't think I've ever really fully believed that Sepp Blatter had anything to do with it and had anything against England in particular, or hated them in any particular way. But um, it's like, I think when you think about, the amount of controversial decisions that have been given against England at major tournaments, you wonder whether someone was behind that, someone had some kind of involvement in that. Um, because I mean, you think about that goal that was given against that goal that we should have had against Germany. Had there been goal line technology then, that goal probably would have stood. It's like the hand. It's like the hand of God goal. The hand of God goal from Diego Maradona. Had they had VAR back in the 80s, that goal would never have stood. We all know that. We all know that if there had been VAR back in the 80s, that goal that Maradona scored against England would never have been given. When I think of other kind of controversial players, Diego Costa fits the bill. I always hated Diego Costa. I always thought he was a bit of a diver. I mean, like you see this. I feel like you see that with a lot of foreign players. Like they go down. A lot of these foreign. I mean, I'm not trying to sound racist, but I do feel like a lot of these foreign players tend to go down like they've been shot in the flipping chest when half the time the player hasn't even made contact with them. It's like they feel the slightest bit of contact and they go down like they've been shot in the flipping chest. It's ridiculous. And I've always said I don't agree with players doing that because I feel like when players start doing that, like they go down like they've been shot in the chest, like kind of influencing the referee's decision. It's sort of influencing the referee to show a red card, and I think that sort of influencing shouldn't be allowed. Players shouldn't be allowed to get away with influencing referees to show red cards, which is what a lot of them do. And it's something that unfortunately you do see quite often in football, is players actually influencing referees to give red cards, which shouldn't be allowed in football. Quite frankly, and the fact that it's such a common thing, it's quite sad. Um, I mean, obviously, John Terry. John Terry was quite a controversial player. Obviously, racially abused in Anton Ferdinand, slept with his teammate's wife or whatever. Like that's mad. I mean, like fancy that though, sleep with your teammate's wife. Like Jesus Christ. I don't know what's worse, that or the fact that he racially abused a black player. You know, um, I remember the Euros 2020 final when we was playing Italy. That referee in that game was just horrendous. Um, there should have been at least one or two players, two times where an Italy player was sent off, but they weren't. He should have been sent off for the way he pulled back Saka in that final. Um, it's just crazy. There have been a lot of, there are a lot of controversial players and there have been a lot of controversial moments in football. What would football be without those kind of controversial moments? You know, like there have been some extremely controversial moments. There's been so many of them that it's impossible to list all of them. But yeah, what a crazy time. As I said, going back to the whole Zinedine Zidane thing when obviously at the World Cup. As I said, I don't disagree. I don't think he did. That he was wrong to do what he did purely because he was provoked. I think had it been one of those situations where he wasn't provoked, I would have a entirely different viewpoint on it. I'd be looking at it in a very different way to how I'm looking at it now. Um, it's just, obviously, it's sad that his final game for France ended the way it did. obviously ended with him being red-hearted, and it could have ended so much better for him, you know. But the fact that it ended that, I always feel like it was really sad that his final game for France ended that way. Ended in, you know, and not only did he get sent off in that game, but France also went on to lose that final as well. So, a bit of a double whammy for them. They had their star man sent off in his final game for them, and they went on to lose that tournament as well. And when I often think about it, I often think, like, had Zidane not been sent off, would France have still lost the tournament even if Zidane had been sent off? I don't know. I always thought that if Zidane hadn't been sent off, France probably would have won that game. You know, and I think that him being sent off had a huge impact on them and was a big part of the reason why they lost that game. I mean, as I said, you can't really blame Zidane entirely for the fact he reacted the way he did. If someone made my comment to what like about my sister, I'd probably react in the exact same way that he did, that's for sure. So I hope you enjoyed this video anyway, but I do a little video on that. I'll see you for another one soon. Bye bye.